What's up, everyone? It's Thomas with Real Broker here in St. Augustine, Florida. And today we're going to be doing a special show for you. I got my partner Justin here with me, and we're going to be doing an overrated, underrated section, as well as following up with that with a couple of news stories. So let's hop right into it. Justin, man, what's going on? How you doing, bro?
Feeling good, man. This is the first time we're in your new studio setup here.
Yeah.
We're still figuring out some few things logistically, like what camera's going to use. Probably get some microphone stands so we're not awkwardly holding these.
Yeah, I feel like we should have like a pint of beer instead.
I'm going to get a workout holding this thing this whole time.
Seriously, yeah. it's kind of heavy. But hey, you know what? You got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah,
it's not always perfect.
Absolutely.
So let's hop right into it, man. Let's we've been toying with this idea of doing like an overrated, underrated for both of our respective areas. You being Jacksonville, me being St. Augustine. So I'm just gonna go ahead. Let's just get into it. You know, I got a couple for you, and I know you got a couple for me. So
wait, so you're gonna ask me questions about Jacksonville, like overrated, underrated?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so well, this one's kind of both of our areas, but overrated, underrated, Publix.
Ooh, I gotta say it's overrated. I'm gonna be honest with
Overrated.
you. I know Publix is a staple, especially in Northeast Florida, but I'm gonna say it's over. I used to work at Publix, so maybe I'm a little biased, and I used to dread going to work. And not that Publix is a bad place to work by any means, but I was a teenager, so I was like, oh, I hate work, you know. It's clean. The prices aren't, they're a little bit more expensive, but at the end of the day, I don't really care that much about customer service in a grocery store because depending on which cashier you get, maybe it's the same as Winn-Dixie or Walmart. Who knows? Well, it's definitely not the same as Walmart. I got to say that.
That's true.
Well, let's not throw
Walmart has all cash. There's no cashiers anymore. You go into Walmart and it's all like, hey, check out yourself. Become a cashier.
Honestly, I don't even mind that. If Publix did that, I'm like, I'm down for that. I might go to Publix because it's clean and I don't have to deal with people.
No, see, I need a discount on my groceries if I'm going to be scanning them. If I got to find the code for what a vegetable is.
True.
Like,
but they got the buy one get one deals, man.
The BOGOs.
They're never like anything you need. It's always like some random. It's like oatmeal or something.
Yeah. You need four jars of ragu right now.
Yeah.
Like
No, it's so true.
All right. Well, hey, let's dive into that a little bit. Overrated, underrated. Publix pub subs.
I'm going to say really overrated. I've never been a fan of Publix subs. I guess the chicken tender...
Make some people mad with that one, man.
I guess the chicken tender sub is great and everything, but it's a little dry. You got to put like some kind of sauce on there to make it really worth your time, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, overrated, yeah. I would definitely say overrated. I would rather go to like Jimmy John's or Jersey Mike's before I'd go to Publix.
Wow, you're a complete traitor to the state of Florida. He said Jersey Mike's.
Come get me, y'all. Come get me.
All right, next one we got overrated, underrated, Daly's Place.
I'd say Daly's Place is underrated, actually. There's so many concerts that happen there, and I've been there several times for different concerts and events. I was actually most recently there for an AEW. It's like the wrestling, the professional wrestling that's, I guess, a tier below the WWE. It was great. I had a great time. The facility was awesome. They have a little lounge area. You can go up there and get like food and drinks and stuff. I think it's underrated. It's like enclosed. It's awesome.
It's relatively new too.
Yeah,
right?
it's brand new.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not brand new, but it's brand new in the sense as how new something like that, like an architectural structure can be.
Yeah, for sure. All right, next one we got overrated, underrated, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence, Mr. Sunshine himself.
Oh my God, I'm gonna get roasted here, but I'm gonna say the Jacksonville Jaguars are overrated. And let me elaborate first before everyone comes for my throat. Listen, I want the Jaguars to win. I want them to win. This is my city too. When the Jaguars succeed, we all succeed. You know. But I think the big hype about the Jacksonville Jaguars, as far as Jacksonvillians go, if that is a word, we saw the performance of last year's playoff entry where we got into the playoffs with kind of a bad record to start and not the prettiest of wins leading up into the playoffs. We did get that really big comeback in the wild card round, but we ended up losing the next round to the Chiefs. I get it. We lost to the Chiefs who won the Super Bowl, but I just feel like none of the performances that the Jaguars put together on an aggregate was anything convincing to think that that we have a Super Bowl championship shot in the next 5 years. So I'd say it's less overrated, underrated, and more so that Jacksonville Jaguar fans, we are just hopeful. We just are.
We got nowhere to go but up, man. That's it. When your team's dog shit for so long, but that's one thing I will say is like, what's underrated about the Jags, I would say, is the amount of energy it brings to the city whenever they're doing well.
True,
because people get behind it, like 110%.
I mean, we have the Duval, like anyone comes to our house, that you just hear that chant just echoing through the entire stadium. So.
Yeah. Remember when we were at UFC and they were shouting Duval? They thought they were getting booed. They were like,
yeah, they did.
Oh, man. Yeah. All right. Now, you actually know my opinion on this one, but overrated, underrated, Mayport Shrimp.
Mayport Shrimp. Okay.
Yeah, Mayport Shrimp.
Ooh, some sexy shrimp going on. Yeah.
Mayport Shrimp. Yeah.
I'd say Mayport Shrimp is definitely underrated. And I'm not saying that people don't appreciate Mayport Shrimp. I wish more places, I guess seafood places or restaurants in general in Northeast Florida would use Mayport Shrimp for their, their cuisine and their cooking. You do see it every now and then where, on the menu it says Mayport Shrimp or this is a po' boy made with Mayport Shrimp. And I love that. Mayport Shrimp is good. Big, juicy shrimp, delicious, better than like the overseas stuff that's bought from like the China Sea and things like that, in my opinion. And I get it. A lot of restaurants are going for, the cost of ingredients, especially in recent years. Cost of things due to supply chain issues has increased. Shrimp, especially seafood in general, significantly. So I understand, but Mayport Shrimp can't beat it. Definitely underrated.
Underrated. I love shrimp, so they're always underrated. All right, so let's go. We'll switch gears a little bit. Overrated, underrated. It's a band from Jacksonville, Leonard Skinnard.
Man, I would say, I think it's, I can't really say Leonard Skinnard is overrated. Obviously, that's just factually incorrect. Just completely factually incorrect if I say that Leonard Skinnard is overrated. They're also not underrated at all. They get enough love. Leonard Skinnard is legendary status. They are perfectly rated in my book. God bless them.
Yeah, properly rated. I agree. Okay. So overrated, underrated, the Jacksonville real estate market. Maybe we should have started with that one, but either way, it's our first time, guys. Give us a break.
Give us a mulligan.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, cut. We're gonna
restart this. Yeah.
The Jacksonville real estate market, overrated, underrated. I think it's underrated. Absolutely. I think a lot of people are a little bit nervous and scared right now of where the market is, especially in Jacksonville as far as the rates go. And understandably so. I get that. But there's actually a lot of good incentive to buy new construction right now. You have a lot of builders who are willing to buy down your rates. So if you're looking for new construction, that's always a great thing. If you're a seller, it's still a seller's market. There's such low inventory right now. You have the leverage as a seller according to the market statistics. So do I think it's overrated? No, it's definitely underrated, the Jacksonville market right now.
Yeah, and that's one thing. Most people are kind of scared because of interest rates and prices, and transactions have slowed down, right? But our pricing and the inventory hasn't really gone anywhere. It's still historic lows. I saw something from Alex Stewart, and it said, like, if the affordability factor was 100, Jacksonville is still at 97. So if it's unaffordable, it goes over 100. It's like 105, right? But Jacksonville's still sitting under the national affordability level.
Yeah, absolutely. If you take Jacksonville and compare it to places like Tampa or Orlando, our affordability, per capita is going to be more affordable than those other major cities in Florida. So in just terms of Florida alone, I think Jacksonville is a great spot that gets overlooked a lot of times when people move from out of state, let's say, to Florida. We get overlooked for places like Orlando, Tampa, Miami, South Florida, etc. Which I don't think you should overlook us up in Jacksonville. We have very affordable prices compared to everybody else. So
compared to the rest of Florida, 100%. Yeah, I mean, compared to St. Johns County, and it's like, man, Jacksonville's way more affordable than St. Johns County.
And I'm sure that affordability rating is much more affordable compared to a lot of other places in the nation as well. If we're talking about big states, the most populous states, we have Florida, New York, California, Washington, Texas. I'd still say we're probably, I'm sure we're more affordable than most of California, most of New York, and most of Washington. Texas, I'd dare to say we're probably more affordable than a lot of places in Texas as well, especially places like Austin,
Well, the one thing with Texas that a lot of people don't realize is that the taxes, they don't have the same homestead exemption that we do here. So like with the 3% cap, and the $50,000 reduction in taxable value, Texas doesn't have that, So the taxes are higher, and
they can go higher.
They can go higher,
rate.
much higher. Yeah. So yeah, I 100% agree with that. All right, our last one for you: overrated, underrated, Jack's Beach.
Man, I feel like I'm just the villain today, honestly.
Yeah.
But
overrated everything. Yeah,
I'm gonna say Jacksonville Beach is a bit overrated. Maybe because I'm a hater and I can't afford to live in Jacksonville.
Yeah, that's
Beach.
it. You're just hating.
But I mean, I think Jacksonville Beach is great. When I say overrated, I don't mean it's bad. It's a good place. As far as restaurants go, it's just saturated with pretty mediocre restaurants in my opinion. As far as the food scene goes, the Jacksonville Beach isn't that amazing. There's nothing spectacular about it. I personally prefer beaches more south of there, like Volano Beach. Yeah. The water is a little bit more green, a little bit more shelly, but it's nice, less crowded. Parking is a little bit more manageable along that way. But yeah, I think a little bit overrated. I wouldn't say too much though. A little bit overrated.
I would have to agree, just being down here in St. Augustine, but we'll get into that in a second. But I would say even the food scene, like we go up to Jacksonville to get food, and we're going to like 5 Points, or we're going to Riverside, or something like that. We're not going to Jack's Beach,
Right.
So that explains a good bit.
There you go.
Yeah. So I agree. All right.
Oh yes, my turn.
Your
okay.
turn. Yeah. So
all
just
right.
doing this on the fly.
All right. Okay. Let's see what your answer is going to be for these. Overrated, underrated. Downtown St. Augustine.
That's tough. I really love downtown St. Augustine because I love the architecture. Oh, man, that's really hard. I'm going to say that it is. I'm going to take a hot take. I'm going to say it's underrated, right?
Oh, my
Now,
gosh.
It's overrated during peak tourist season, right?
Okay, yeah.
It's like Times Square in Manhattan. No one that lives in New York is going to Times Square during peak tourist season, or really at all, to be honest, Downtown St. Augustine is so cute and it's so cool. It's so different than everything else in Florida with the history, the architecture. I think that is severely underrated. The food scene down there, also underrated. And now, they have the music scene popping. I mean, they've had the music scene popping off down there. So outside of tourism in downtown St. Augustine, it's underrated. But aside from that, if you're just looking to go have a good night and then you're doing it during the Christmas time or summertime, overrated. I'm going somewhere else.
Gotcha.
I give it 50-50.
I respect the tap dance around that one.
100%.
All right. Overrated, underrated. River and Fort.
Ooh. I'm going to go with properly rated.
Okay.
I'm going to go with properly rated on that one. Every time I've gone there, the food has been amazing.
I know you're a shrimp guy. I'm sure you got shrimp while you were there.
They've got a New York strip stuffed with shrimp, and that's what I get every single time when I go there. And it's something I normally probably wouldn't go after because, I don't know, stuffing a steak is kind of weird, right?
Yeah.
But, man, it's good. And then the service has always been good. They have a rooftop bar, which in St. Augustine, there's only 3 I can think of offhand, which is now it's becoming more of a cool thing to have a rooftop bar here. So we're seeing more of that. But it's also right across from the fort, and their sister restaurant, River and Post in Jacksonville, which is a place that we've gone to, is amazing, like that. And it's the same thing in St. Augustine here. So they have views of the fort. They have a 3rd story. They have area to drink, an area to just hang out and eat. I'm a big fan.
Proper answer.
Yeah.
All right, overrated, underrated.
Send me a gift card, right?
Yeah, $2.50 to favorite Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah, exactly.
Overrated, underrated. Night of Lights.
Night of Lights. It's overrated for me, 100%, because it's been around forever. Now if you're seeing it for the first time, it's cool. But if it's lights. It's white lights that go up on palm trees, and it covers the whole downtown. It doesn't interest me. It's not like unless I have friends or family in town that want to go see Night of Lights, I'm not going.
Agreed. Yeah, I think me and my family, for a few years there, we would come down to Night of Lights, and just it would be like a yearly thing. We'd go to Night of Lights, and every time we 30 minutes to find parking or more.
Yeah.
Get there, walk around the pavilion and see the lights, eat at pizza time, and go home. That's literally all it is for us. So I think I'd have to agree with you there as far as it being overrated. All right. Overrated, underrated. Pizza time, since we're on the topic.
I think you know my answer on this one. So I love pizza time. I think it has one of the it's properly it's underrated, I think, right? Because the pizza is so good. The grandma slice that they have there is fantastic.
Yes, it is.
What's overrated is their location, because it's a pain in the ass to get down there. And like when you want a good slice of pizza, it's like, all right, so now I got to legally park somewhere so I can run in, grab my pizza real quick and drive home. They don't deliver. So that's my biggest gripe.
Cash as well.
Cash as well, right?
Only.
The ATM fee in there is like $5 or something like that, just to pull money out. Yeah. And there's always a line out the door, which, you know, adds to its great pizza, right? But at the same time, it's like you're just trying to go and grab a pie and get out of there. A lot of times when it's busy, they don't do to-go orders either. So it's just like, all right, so now if I really want a grandma slice, I gotta drive down there, which is only a 3-minute drive for me now. But then I gotta park illegally because I'm not gonna park far away, walk a half a mile, and then wait for a pizza. And you know, so like I'm just risking it. And yeah, then you gotta wait in line. So it can be a total pain in the ass. That's where I'm gonna say that's definitely overrated.
Yeah, I gotcha. All right, overrated, underrated. St. Augustine Traffic.
So if you're a local, I guess. Underrated. It depends on how you look at like what it's terrible if you're a local, right? So I guess you'd say that it's overrated, right? But if you're not from St. Augustine or like a small town, the traffic here is definitely underrated. You know, it's not that bad. You know, I lived in New York City.
True.
I've driven through DC, Baltimore, Richmond area, obviously much bigger places. I've lived in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Like all those places had way worse traffic where you're stuck in gridlock traffic. You're just sitting, you know, doing nothing. Now, does that happen here? Yeah, but when there's a car accident or something, you know,
right.
Or nights of lights. So I would say that the traffic is properly rated.
Okay, all right. The next one is overrated, underrated. New construction.
Oh, I mean, new construction right now is definitely underrated. And for that reason is, you know, there's a ton of things, but biggest thing is going to be interest rate, right? They're able to buy down your interest rate. I was just talking to a lender, a sales rep at the new construction the other day. They're like, yeah, we're buying it down to under 6, you know, and it's like when interest rates are 7.3.
That's crazy.
That's a huge bit. And it's like, if you've seen like our prices really haven't gone anywhere. It's gone since March, our prices have gone 8%. Like that's a staggering statistic. And it's like, okay, so with higher interest rates, things are still moving and prices are still increasing. So that means that a ton of people are moving here, you know?
There's still demand.
There's still demand. Yeah. So, and new construction sales, they're doing better than ever because they're able to be that force in the market where it's like, hey, you're not comfortable over here with interest rates. We got some sweet ones over here. Plus you get a new home with warranties and all that kind of stuff. You know, obviously the builder does matter in that, but in my opinion, you know, whether you're looking at a production level builder or you're looking at like a custom home builder, you're still getting everything brand new. Most of the things are all under warranty. So maybe it's a pain in the ass to deal with the warranty department. That's overrated for sure.
Yeah.
It's definitely a nice thing to have, a little security for yourself.
Absolutely. And since, you know, you asked me, I'm kind of curious to see where you lie on this. Publix, overrated, underrated?
I'm going to go with overrated too. Now, my wife loves Publix. She never knew what a Publix, you know, we had Key Food in New York, which is like a shitty grocery store, you know, and Publix is awesome if you've never experienced anything like Publix, but like they also price gouge like crazy. The prices in Publix are like a couple dollars more on most things than a Walmart or a Winn-Dixie or Aldi, you know, which we're going to talk about here in a second. But I mean, it's a good bit, and like you're paying for customer service, you know, you're paying for someone to ask you how your day is, you know.
Yeah.
And it is a super clean store. They have everything. You can always find stuff in there, you know, that you're looking for. You know, Maya, she likes to buy a lot of I guess the in the international aisle, as they call it, you know, where she's buying stuff from, you know, Puerto Rico and everything, and they have things like that, you know, which is great. But aside from that, it is pricey, which I think is what leads it to being overrated.
Completely concur.
Yeah. What happened? What did Publix do to you? You know?
They hurt me, man. They hurt me real bad.
Oh shit.
I'm just kidding. Everyone, you know, I'm not saying Publix is bad. I like Publix. I'm just saying it's overrated. That's the distinction I want to make there.
Like, we still shop there 100% of our shop. Aside from Costco runs, we're shopping at Publix. But
if I'm going to the liquor store, I'm going to Publix liquors.
Oh, that's a good.
I just love it. You got Publix right there. You go check out the BOGOs really quickly.
Yeah.
Most of the time, if I go to Publix, it's kind of because I have to, because it's like, oh, I need to get something and it's right there.
Yeah.
Or I'm looking for BOGOs.
I think it's the convenience because there's Publix everywhere,
Everywhere.
right? And like they're literally on 16 and International Golf Parkway. There's a Publix on one corner and literally across the street facing International. So one's on 16, one's on International Golf Parkway. They're on the corner next to each other.
It's crazy.
It's ridiculous.
And speaking of grocery stores being everywhere, I guess that kind of helps us segue into the next topic.
Yeah.
I guess we're going to go over so big news here. This actually happened a couple weeks ago, the announcement that Aldi is buying up Winn-Dixie. And that's pretty huge because if you're born in Northeast Florida or lived here at any period of time, you know that Winn-Dixie is such a huge presence grocery store wise. Here, probably if I had to say the biggest giants of grocery stores here is probably Publix number 1, Winn-Dixie number 2.
Yep.
We even have Winn-Dixie in Jacksonville's Winn-Dixie's headquarters are in Jacksonville. So it's just a testament to show you how widespread of an influence Winn-Dixie has on our Jacksonville market. I'm sure you guys have Winn-Dixie's down here in St. Augustine as well.
For sure.
Yeah. So 2 big heavy hitters, Publix and Winn-Dixie, and Aldi is coming from across the water. Aldi, I think
the Germans.
The Germans, they're coming to
Germans.
buy. They're coming to buy all our Florida stores.
Yeah.
Actually, and all over the Southeast, are buying all of Winn-Dixie. I think 400 stores total, which is crazy to think of.
How much money that is, did
gosh.
it even say
They
how much it was in this
They haven't
article?
disclosed the deal yet because
Yeah.
I think they're still finalizing the nitty-gritty of it all. But nonetheless, Aldi is buying up Winn-Dixie, and essentially what that means, I know a lot of people are probably scared, may or may not be scared. It depends on which one you like more, right? Do you like Aldi more? Do you like Winn-Dixie more? But I'm here to tell you that it doesn't really matter because both will still be here.
Yep.
Nonetheless, Aldi is purchasing Winn-Dixie and only turning select Winn-Dixie stores into the Aldi interface. So you're still going to have your Winn-Dixies around to shop at if you like Winn-Dixie. Maybe it's bad news for you if you don't like Winn-Dixie at all and you wanted more Aldis.
Yeah.
Unfortunately so, but you will have more Aldis, to say the least. And I think a big thing about this is if you what that really means, right? We're like, oh, what does that mean for real estate, right? Well, if you look at a map of Jacksonville, I did a video on this recently on my channel. I went more in depth. You'll look at the map of Jacksonville and see all the locations of the Winn-Dixies in Duval County, and they're spread out very evenly, obviously, so a very established company over many, many decades in the area. And you look at Aldi, there's not as many, right? There's quite a few Aldis in Jacksonville, but not as spread out and not covering all the necessary areas to have a full grasp on the Jacksonville market. But when you put one over top of the other, you can see where the Aldi's locations are compared to the Winn-Dixies. You can see that Winn-Dixie has a foothold in a lot of the areas that Aldi is lacking in, right? For example, like the Jacksonville Beach area, the Neptune Beach, Atlantic Beach area. Huge part that they're missing there, where Winn-Dixie does have that foothold. So it makes me think, do you think Aldi might want to convert those stores in the future into the Aldi brand in order to get their foot in the door over there?
I'm sure because if they were to just change all the Winn-Dixies to Aldis, they lose that brand recognition that Winn-Dixie has built here in in Florida, in general, but all over the Southeast. But here in our area, they would just totally wreck that brand recognition, which I don't think they're going to do that,
Yeah, no shot.
And so I don't really see any change on that, but I know we talked about this a little bit before the pod started. Can you elaborate a little bit more on kind of the Aldi Starbucks effect, if you would call that? Wherever you put in Aldi's, there was some return on investment that you were mentioning.
Yeah, so when I did my video a few days ago about this topic, I actually saw this a while back, and I didn't correlate it until I started recording the video. I was like, oh, yeah, I remember I saw a study that I read, and I have kind of the data here. So it's a study that looked at zip codes across the nation, right? So this is an average across the entire United States of zip codes that have Aldi's, Trader Joe's, or Whole Foods. We'll disregard Whole Foods, not really interested in Whole Foods all that much, but we'll just use Aldi and Trader Joe's for talking point's sake. So they looked at these zip codes, and it kind of had a correlation to what home values would look like on average in those particular zip codes that had an Aldi and those particular zip codes that had a Trader Joe's. For example, if you live in a zip code with an Aldi, the average home value across the nation, this is going to be different for each particular market in each different state, right? The average home value on an aggregate was $321,000 if you're in a zip code with an Aldi. Mm-hmm. And if you're in a zip code with a Trader Joe's, your average home value was $987,000. So that right there kind of shows you like the types of the demographics that each store is kind of trying to target themselves towards. As you can see, when you hear those numbers, what do you think? Like what stark difference, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I think if you go into a Whole Foods, you go into an Aldi's, you can kind of, just look at the price. Look at your receipt when you come out. The prices are way different.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, absolutely.
They're obviously targeting a demographic that they're trying to cater to, you know,
Sure.
and maybe that's also part of the bigger strategy of Winn-Dixie or Aldi buying Winn-Dixie, because I'm not sure if Winn-Dixie came up in that study where it's like, oh, the average price point's 500, you know, so they're getting the under 500,000 home area crowd, whereas Whole Foods is getting the 600 plus, let's say.
Right.
So they're just hitting their target market where they need to.
Absolutely. And where we can really find where this may be indicative of a correlation between increasing your home value or buying in a place with a better home value on average if you buy near an Aldi or a Trader Joe's is that they looked at this study over a 5-year home appreciation period. So over 5 years, right? So meaning that if they had put an Aldi there, 5 years ago, they're looking at the appreciation over time of what that looked like for that particular zip code. And over a 5-year period, the home appreciation value percent for homes in a zip code with an Aldi was 58% over a 5-year period. And then with Trader Joe's, it was 49% increase over a 5-year period. So you're looking at possibly your home value appreciating because, probably because of many factors, but it could be a huge correlation. If you're looking, let's say you live, on the border of, town or something, and, there's a zip code right next to you that's opening up an Aldi, maybe that particular zip code is going to see a huge increase in value over the period of the next 5 years or so because of that implementation of that grocery store or Trader Joe's, what have you. So
that was based off of flips, correct? Like someone.
So that's next. That's just in general.
Okay, gotcha.
In general. Now I want to put a caveat out there because over the last 5 years, there's been many things that have happened that have appreciated home values, and maybe not all of that 58% value increase over the 5-year period can be attributed to the Aldi.
Correlation,
probably not.
Correlation isn't causation in this effect.
Exactly.
Just because the Aldi goes down the corner doesn't mean your house is worth 50%.
Yeah, don't go buying up a house next to an Aldi just because I told you that it's going to increase in value by 58%.
Yeah.
But it can show that trend, right? It can be a part of that overlying factor of, homes did appreciate over the last 5 years because of many different factors, but also because it was next to an Aldi, So, and then what's really interesting, what you just kind of alluded to just before, was that for flippers, people who are investors who like to fix and flip, they saw some pretty good gains as far as like flipping things near an Aldi or a Trader Joe's. And there's a difference between both, and we'll go over that, and we'll kind of figure out why that may be.
Yeah.
So for Aldi, the average gross flipping ROI for homes near an Aldi was 54%. And for ones next to a Trader Joe's was 28%. Now, that's a huge difference as far as like your average gross flipping ROI between the two markets if you lived near an Aldi or Trader Joe's. Now, I want to say that 54% gross is not necessarily profit, right? We know that, you bought your house for $100,000, you're making, you flip it and you sell it for $150,000, right? That $50,000 in quote unquote gross profit may not be net profit for you. You may have put $20,000 in it, So I don't want people to think that you're going to go out there, make a flip and make 54% return on investment net, but nonetheless, it's a huge number.
Yeah, well, and I just had to pull up the math here because I was thinking about it, right? So it's like, all right, so they're making it. The Aldis are in what, $350,000 neighborhood, you said, or 300,000?
320,000.
320. Okay, so let me just do the math on that, right? So 320 times 54%, right? Or is it 1.54?
No, it's 54%.
But in terms of the math, like, so they get That's all right. So
0.54. Yeah.
Yeah.
You would times it by 0.54.
So that's $172,000.
Yeah.
Right now, if you were to change that to where Whole Foods is $900,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
And though they're only getting 28%, that comes out to $252,000.
It's a huge value increase because their price point is so much significantly higher than the ones in Aldi.
So it sounds like, oh, well, you know what? I'm buying near an Aldi. That's a great investment versus like, well, in reality, because the numbers are so much bigger, the investment, obviously the risk is much bigger with around a Whole Foods neighborhood, you know, but
it's Trader Joe's.
Or Trader Joe's, my mistake.
It's very similar though.
Yeah, around a Trader Joe's neighborhood, but your reward is a little bit better, though the return, the ROI is not necessarily the same. So that's really interesting.
Exactly. The numbers it's not a linear growth, right? It's more of a quadratic growth. So being near Trader Joe's, only a 28% increase sounds viscerally when you hear, but all these increase in flipping ROI is 54% versus 28%. Like you said, the Trader Joe's neighborhood, those price points are like just under $1 million.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's more of like you got to pay to play, right? You know? So
for sure.
you're putting a lot more investment in it to get more returns. Like anything we see in investment, you know.
Yeah. Well, and also if you're evaluating risk, if you're looking to flip a home, right? It's like, all right, how many people are in that 300 to 500 range versus the 6 to a million range or 750 to a million range? Like, it's probably 5 times as much in the 300 to 500 range.
Absolutely.
So maybe flipping a house, selling a house might be a little bit easier there, but the reward is going to be a little bit better in that Trader Joe's neighborhood.
For sure. I think, and another thing, I know people are like, investors, cool. I'm not an investor. Most of us aren't, right?
Yeah.
But the average home seller, and again, I want to just reiterate, but before anyone gets, miscalculated here, the average gross flipping ROI was not considered over the 5-year period. It just means that someone bought a home, and within that time period, at any amount of time given, they could have bought it, on January 1st, and then flipped it 3 months later and sold it. They would have got that, on average, that 54% increase in home value when they flipped it. So it's not necessarily, it doesn't look, in that particular metric, it doesn't look at it over the 5-year period, because the average home seller ROI, which is something they do look at over the course of the 5-year period, it increased with Aldi's at 61% and Trader Joe's at 51%. So they're very similar numbers. But again, that increase on that Trader Joe's one is crazy, right?
Yeah.
Because like,
where it's like you're looking at, I mean, if you're talking about the ROI, it was 54% to 28%, but the law of big numbers, right? It's just like that's a lot more. And it's like when you're saying like over 5 years, 61% for Aldi and 51% for Trader Joe's. So that's a lot bigger of a number, if you're talking about the appreciation over 5 years. So that's crazy.
So maybe it's indicative of also maybe like try it if you can't afford it, buy near Trader Joe's.
Yeah.
Get in there, but when they're starting to build, maybe you'll get a huge
buy new construction, get the interest rate, buy Trader Joe's. Yeah.
And then again, the average home seller ROI over a 5-year period, a lot of that's attributed to the market
for sure.
Over the last 5 years, how much home values have increased drastically. But yeah, I mean, that was the big news over in Jacksonville. What do you got for me down here in St. Augustine?
So I'm going to start with a softball here, and this is something that I've covered on my channel before, and it's something that it really bothers the shit out of me. Because here in St. Johns County, we have we're consistently ranked for years the #1 school district, of the entire state of Florida in terms of public schools. And I believe this past year we got #1 again, whereas last year
do
we
you
were
happen
2.
to know what the metric they use for that, or metrics that are they using, like test scores?
Yeah, I think
or
they
like
base it off of test scores,
graduation rates, or what?
It's all that. Yeah, so graduation rate's a big one, and Duval County's made strides, dude. Like I was looking at Duval County and how they raised their graduation rate by, I want to say, like 11%, like within the past 3 years.
Yeah,
which is a pretty good
That's
chunk.
a significant increase.
Yeah, and I think when I was reading it, it could be at 82% now graduation rate. That's crazy.
And it is a little bit more difficult for Jacksonville to do such a thing in such a short amount of time because we have such a more populous city than St. Augustine, right?
Yeah,
whereas an increase for you guys down here in St. Augustine, it's significant, but it's a much bigger hurdle for a place like Jacksonville.
We got like a third of the people that you guys have.
Yeah.
We have I think around 300,000 people here. If you're adjusting for all the people that have moved here over the past 5 years.
Yeah.
and you guys have like 1.5, I think.
And quite honestly, I feel like Jacksonville has no business being one county. It's just so huge.
That's true.
Like it could
True.
literally be 2 different counties.
Yeah, it could be 4. Yeah, like honestly, like it's humongous. But either way, so this is a local news story here, and it just upsets me because in the midst of everything going on with inflation, with home prices here getting more expensive, teachers, their salaries haven't increased at all. And a lot of the public administration, which is the major employer here in St. Johns County, their wages have stayed the same while everything around them is getting way more expensive. And before the pandemic, you know, I'm not saying they couldn't bought a house. They could have definitely bought a house before the pandemic. But, you know, like teachers, we all hear this, like all our friends that are teachers on Facebook, like, hey guys, we're starting the new year and we need some more supplies. Like they're coming out of pocket they're starting fundraisers for their own
Isn't
supplies.
That crazy?
And it's like, what are we doing? You know?
Oh my God.
So like the news story here is teachers rejoice, receive free admission to 3 big attractions in St. Augustine. Now, I didn't even read what attractions it is. Like they're showing Ripley's on the headline here, but it's like they don't want to rejoice over this shit, man. Like let's get them some more money.
Yes,
you know, let's
exactly.
pay them some more money. And they did renegotiate their deal here. Last year was the first time the teachers union ever rejected a pay raise because it wasn't enough.
Okay, so because it wasn't enough, they rejected it out of principle.
Yeah,
and that shows a lot because, you know, in this day and age, to reject any type of pay increases is substantially it's a statement, right?
Yeah.
You know, it just goes to show how they feel about that particular number that they were offered. Just wasn't enough.
Well, and the problem is that every surrounding county, regardless of how well they do in the rankings of the state of Florida, pay more than St. Johns County.
And you would think there would be that's literally sounds like a negative correlation, right? You would think that we are doing better by every metric. You guys are ranking us year after year after year. Number 1, number 2.
Pay them.
Pay them exactly. Pay them, right?
Like so they ended up negotiating a deal, and I mean, I guess this is better than nothing, but I believe now the starting salary is around $55,000, and then they have performance incentives, which I like that aspect of it. So like it's more effective and effective, I think, or more effective or most effective. It's one of those. Either way, the bonus is like $2,200 and $1,500 on an annual basis. It's like, guys, like that's dog shit. Like in my opinion, you know, like
I'm there with you.
$2,200, like you go to Costco once and you're spending $300 to $400. You know, like that's just me and my wife and a dog. You know, so like if you have a family, you have 2 kids. Doesn't make sense. It's ridiculous. I think it's a slap in the face. And to advertise, to rejoice, because they get to go to 3 attractions here in St. Augustine, the place they live. It's like, hey, you know, we'll take the Manhattan thing. Like, hey, you get to go to Times Square for free. Like, so like no one cares.
No,
you know?
no one's like graduating and becoming a teacher, an educator. I'm like, man, I really can't wait till I get into Ripley's, believe it or not, for free, baby.
The bennies, you know,
the amenities that I get to reap these benefits.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. I don't get it, and this is something I've been voicing my opinion on for over 2 years now. But it's just like. They need to be paid more, you know, like if good teachers are leaving our county to go to another county just based on pay and affordability, like, okay, that's going to keep happening, you know? And if we want to keep that reigning spot of being the best school district in the entire state, that can't happen.
Yeah. And like you said, I guess if nothing changes over time, we're going to see, you know, a decrease in the outcomes for St. Johns County education, because people are leaving, and if they're not getting paid enough, you know, they're going to see them leaving other counties, and we may see that number 1 rank drop to number 3, number 5, number 6.
God forbid we're like sub 10, you know.
And you know what's crazy is that we even have to get to that level to convince anyone to pay them more.
Yeah.
And because they're already the number 1, so pay them more. They deserve it.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. It's like
it's as simple as that.
You know what? Opinion. You guys deserve the bare minimum. You know.
Let's see how little we can give them while making them do the utmost.
That's pretty much what it feels like. And I mean, if you are a teacher in St. Johns County, please make sure you chime in, or a surrounding county that knows what's going on. Oh, unbelievable.
Oh, man, you're ruining it.
I know, I ruined it. Trying to get this next news story up, and of course, the videos always just start without your permission. So let's hop into this new one now that we've got
right.
it interrupted.
Go Teachers.
Yeah, go Teachers. Let's make it happen. Let's get them paid some more money here, guys. And let's not change our taxes at all for it, okay? Let's maybe add a sales tax to the tourists that are coming in.
Absolutely. Tax those tourists, baby.
Tax the tourists.
They got the money to travel, baby.
Yeah, they do. They're coming here during apparently a recession, you know. They got the money. They're going to be good to go. Extra half a penny on all their transactions, you know. So, either way, next news story is owners of a popular St. Johns County beach club are facing 2 foreclosure lawsuits, and the members have questions. So here in St. Johns County, we have Serenata Beach Club, which is pretty much one of the premier beach clubs here in the area. And this past week, it was just closed indefinitely. It was closed for over 24 hours.
Okay.
The beach club members also got an email saying like, hey, you're not able to make your payments to the association anymore through ACH transfer. Please drop off a check, like a physical check somewhere.
Yeah.
So obviously that caused a lot of freak out, and it's based off of the owners here. And it seems like it's not going to be good. But the owners are also getting sued because,
Yikes.
Yeah, because they have a property in Flagler Beach that they're working on, and they're owners of Serenata Beach Club. And DLP Lending Fund is seeking more than $8.5 million from owners Molly and Jeffrey Butler. And the World Business Lenders say that it's owed nearly $2.1 million. And they've defaulted. They took out a big loan to do a whole bunch of stuff at Serenata Beach Club. They defaulted on all that stuff. They only made one payment of $125,000. They've since defaulted on that.
Wow.
So I don't know. I mean, what that means for the Serenata Beach Club goers.
So I guess my question, this is the first time I'm hearing of this, and I'm not familiar with the Serenata Beach Club, but it sounds a lot like something similar to the Ponte Vedra Beach Club, right? You know, it's a club on the beach.
Yeah.
You get certain amenities. You pay a membership fee, kind of like a gym or a spa or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Sounds like they've been collecting fees for members.
Yep.
And have still defaulted on their loans for the property. I mean,
One lady said that she paid her fees, her membership fees of $10,000 and her annual dues of $3,000. And of course, she's kind of like, what the hell's going on? You know
what's interesting about that, because the members may be paying in annual increments, right? They're not like paying, every month take out money for my check. They're paying like, okay, 10 grand for the year, right?
Yeah.
And then if it closes down middle of the year or before the year's over, they're not getting that money back, in my opinion. I mean, they'd have to countersue them or something just to track their money down. At that point, it's such a legal hassle per individual of the club,
Yeah, and so I mean, they're out money, right?
Yeah.
And even we were talking with one of our mutual friend of ours that is also in the real estate space, and their family worked in this Flagler Beach new development that's also getting sued, and they're owed something north of like $1 million from these people.
Sheesh.
So
what's going on? What are they doing with this money?
What the hell is going on? Yeah, if you live in the Serenata Beach Club, feel free to let us know what's going on. We'd love to know more about it, what you guys are seeing on the inside. But I mean, doesn't look good for them. Not at all. This looks like a bad situation. And I mean, is this a changing of the tides, right? Like, is this something that could start a ripple effect where you're going to see other places, maybe defaulting on loans, especially big places like this?
I'd really like to know what the reasoning is behind the defaulting of the loan, because that's going to be indicative of whether or not it is going to be, a ripple effect or not. It could be the case that, these owners are just grossly mismanaging the money, or maybe taking that money and trying to reinvest in other projects that are failing, and by proxy, as a byproduct, the other one's going to fail too, right? The Serenata Beach Club, because they're borrowing against that.
Yeah, it doesn't look good for him. So Molly and Jeffrey Butler, hope you're. If you want to get on here and speak your case, let me know. We'll get you on the pod.
Let us know what's going on. It's kind of a juicy story. I'm not gonna lie.
It is, and we'll keep up to date on this. And if they do have another update, me and you will talk about it in the future here. But very interesting. And man, I'd be so pissed. I'd be pissed if I paid $13,000 for the year. That's a good chunk of change,
That's huge.
Yeah. Now
compare it to like how. I mean, obviously, your average American is not paying to go to a beach club,
for sure.
Clearly,
Yeah.
But just in comparison to like a normal person who makes $40,000 to $50,000 a year, that's a huge chunk of change.
Yeah, I mean, that's 20% of their income right
Massive.
there. And they're just, and
And you just lose it.
And you
right?
just lose it. Yeah, it's like you don't get anything for it. So I mean, maybe these people can take the hit of the $13,000.
I'm sure, but nonetheless, the principle stands. It's their money. They deserve their money.
They should be getting the services they're paying for. So
exactly.
We'll keep up to date on that, guys, and we'll let you know what happens here in the future. But I think that's all we got for today. One of our cameras died,
Yeah, it's okay. It's all right. It's all good. We still got 2 left.
It's all good. We still got 2. Yeah. So, yeah, guys, if you're looking for any more information about living here in St. Augustine, living in Jacksonville, make sure you reach out to our team. Justin also runs a great YouTube channel, Living in Jacksonville. It's just as good as mine, maybe even better. He might edit his a little bit nicer than mine. Who knows? But until next time, guys, if you're looking to buy, sell, or invest, make sure you reach out to me. I'd love to be able to help you out. And same thing with Justin here, right?
Adios.